I believe it's a fairly bipartisan issue to say that the United States education system is fucked. It was just disagreed on how it was fucked. The left will typically say that not enough is being done, or that education is being targeted to the wrong groups, and that there were so many people being left behind and not done enough for, whereas the right will say that education has effectively become propaganda factories for the left and a lot of left ideas. And recently, due to the BLM riots and the people actually arrested in those, the right seems to have been more right than I think that anyone originally had thought. Now, if anyone has been paying attention the last 5, 10 years, the fact that there are a surprising number of, especially university professors, that are extreme left and not afraid to show it is not a shock. That's a given. That universities and, to an extent, high schools are filled with professors and teachers that are extremely left. Whether they did anything or not is usually up for debate. The university professors usually got in some sort of situation or notoriety for doing something. The high school teachers, not so much. But then the past several months of mostly peaceful rioting have happened, and every time there's a list of people that were arrested, the number of teachers in those lists is staggering, to a degree where I don't think you can argue anymore that something has gone wrong here with our education system. A lot of people who are in the education system seem to be very ideologically driven. And it is such a high degree that I do not think that they are hiding it. Or I should more accurately say, not presenting that in their classrooms. I've seen numbers something like anywhere from 1 in 10 to 1 in 4 of the people that have been arrested for the riots on a daily, weekly, whatever basis are in the education system somehow. And even if it's just the 1 in 10 number, that's actually kind of surprising, considering the ratio of the population that are educators. But then the 1 in 4 number is just absolutely mind-boggling. Which, unfortunately, explains millennials. These are typically people that have been educators throughout the time period that millennials were in the education system, and then a decent number of these educators themselves are millennials who just got into the education system. It's been widely known that millennials are probably the most left-leaning generation that has ever existed. Good or bad, you decide on that. I think that that's sort of a natural progression of generations, that they tend to lean more left as they go on, i.e. socially. But millennials went just so hard left that it was incredibly noticeable. To the point where the Zoomers, the generation that is now coming up, who are either the younger, very younger siblings of millennials, or in some extents the children of millennials, is considered the most heavily right-leaning generation since the greatest generation, the World War II generation. I believe that that's in response to rebelling against their parents, who are heavily left-leaning, and the education system, which is heavily left-leaning. But back to the education system itself, we've gotten to a point where just recently a university professor in the middle of class, I'm not sure exactly what provoked this, said, and I'm quoting here, "I hope all Republicans die before the election." She got suspended for saying that. Here's what's disturbing about this. I wasn't shocked to hear that she had said that. I was shocked to hear that she had gotten suspended for it. And I know that there are going to be some people that scream, "Ma free speech." Death threats I don't consider free speech. I don't think any free speech advocate considers death threats free speech. It really no longer startles me or shocks me at all when I hear about a professor or a teacher doing something like this. But I think that we are starting to see something of a pushback against this. I think that they've finally hit a tipping point where they've gone so far that it's no longer possible to ignore it. Which, good. And I'm not saying that there should be a right-leaning curriculum or a right-leaning bias to education. I'm not saying that at all. Hell, there was I think, middle school teacher who gave a quiz, and one of the things on the quiz was that COVID was fake. That's absolutely bullshit. That person should have gotten reprimanded for that too. No, my point is that left, right, whatever, it doesn't matter what you are there to teach children. You are not there to propagandize them to your cause. What does being left have to do with learning math? Or just learning vocabulary or shit like that? It doesn't. You do not need to propagandize these kids in your curriculum. You are there to teach the subject you're teaching. That's all. Now, if the child comes to you, well, when I say child, I mean like late teenager, early adults, typically high school or university level. If they come to you and they're saying all this shit, then you can tell them your point of view. I'm not saying that you can't do that. But when you make it part of your curriculum, that's the issue here. And it seems like more often than not, that's what the case is. I really do think we need just a hard restructuring of the education system from the top down. Unfortunately, it does seem like the top is trying to do something, and it's the down that's fighting every step of the way. This I'm not stupid. This does have something to do with how the left and the right typically think in the manner of how they view jobs. The right typically tends to go for more of a hard-working, salt of the earth kind of mentality. They just do their work and that's it. Whereas the left tends to think of the social ramifications of jobs. They tend to be more socially minded and focus on jobs in those kinds of fields. That's been a noted thing for a long time, and I think that does have something to do with the just huge imbalance that we see in the education system. So that's probably part of the problem there. I don't know how you'd fix that because I absolutely hate the idea of the quota system. I hate affirmative action because it is a quota system, and I don't know how you would fix the education system as is unless you put in a quota system. This is one of those things that people much smarter than I need to deliberate on. The issue is that those people are in the education system themselves, and let's just say they aren't going to be advocating for the removal of their jobs anytime soon. the just the absolute number of people that I've seen in the riots and the protests that are educators continues to stagger me to no end. The fact that one of the quote-unquote leaders of the second CHOP, the Free State of George Floyd over in Minneapolis, is an educator herself and has been one for 20-odd years, no longer shocks me. The fact that we see of all of these arrests, all of these riots, all of the shit that happens whenever educator gets brought up, I'm like, oh, of course. It's no longer a surprise that this is going on. And that has, and it's at that level that you should be going, we fucked up somehow. I don't know how to fix it. I really don't. It just needs to be fixed, is the problem. How you do it. Throw out ideas. Throw out suggestions. I genuinely don't know. I'd like to hear from you. What do you think should be done? Because we can't keep going in the direction we're going. If we do, we're just fucked. There is no argument with that. We are just screwed. Because, especially with the Zoomers coming up, they are going to openly rebel against this kind of system. Not like the typical teenage rebellious phase thing. I mean like openly rebel against it. And that's not going to be fun to watch. There's been Math Machine just saying that the education system is fucked, but hey, I guess that's just a day ending in Y at this point. Oy, 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 oy. Peace out.